type show next week for episode 17. And the one thing I'm going to ask him is how he teaches his players to be able to coach themselves. And we're seeing it now a lot in the World Series. If you're watching the World Series, I hope you are. It's really great
Mhm.
entertainment, by the way, with some Astros players, some Phillies players, veterans helping younger guys, right? Helping younger players and younger athletes. How do athletes go about that and being able to get to a point where they can coach themselves, and how do coaches get to those the athletes to that point to where they can kind of now lay back, because part of your job as a coach and a teacher is teaching methods, coaching and expressing those methods, right, to try and get those players to understand and then be able to coach themselves and make quick adjustments on the fly.
Absolutely. And to be honest, the very first thing I'll tell athletes and parents, and they kind of get taken back a little bit, is that my number one goal is you eventually don't need me, that you eventually
Hmm.
don't need anybody, because, at the end of the day, it's not what someone else sees, it's what you're feeling. And hey, how'd you feel on that pitch? And how can I make that adjustment? Because that's going to vary athlete to athlete. And I think what we see at the World Series, what we see at the high level of college softball is you get athletes understanding, hey, we don't need a coach telling us we're dropping our shoulder. We don't need someone telling us we're pulling our head. What we need is to be able to go and look at, my next batter up and say, hey, this guy or this girl is throwing a pitch very similar to what we faced back in April. Remember, we faced that one girl who was throwing this? That's exactly the type of pitch. We got to think top half of the ball and we're going to smoke it to the gap. And something as simple as that is probably way more valuable than anything else someone else who's not in the batter's box is seeing or hearing or trying to interpret for that hitter.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm watching, especially with hitting too. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's baseball or softball. You have to make those quick adjustments on the fly. And to see and I know they're professional players, I know they're major league players, but there's no reason that college players in both sports can't understand this and really grasp the concept of being able to make those adjustments and coach themselves. I know it's easier said than done, but I think that what separates the great coaches is their ability to teach those players how to do such a thing.
Yeah, and you know what? It's also, I think part of it is kind of like backing off a little bit, and
Mhm.
certainly it, there was very little tolerance for not making adjustments in practice. And even my freshman year, it was like if you had a round of 5 BP swings, and if two or God forbid if you got to 3 in a row, but if 2 in a row you kind of shanked to the opposite field side and you didn't make some type of adjustment, even if it was this massive overcorrection to just prove that you're at least fighting for something different,
Mhm.
your round was over. Get out. Like you're not focused enough. That was it. And I do think it's important when I ask every single one of my hitters, hey, what's our goal today? What are we trying to focus on? What is your definition of success? And so many of them, I mean, I think 90% of the time they say consistency. And then when I ask them what that looks like, they don't really know how to define it. And I'm like, well, we're not going to go hit 800. Nobody does that. So we have to redefine what you really think consistency is. And what it boils down to is very mediocre hitters are going to make adjustments, maybe weekend to weekend, maybe month to month, whatever it may be. It's going to take them a very long time to make those adjustments. And then the higher echelon hitter you become, all of a sudden you're going not just game to game, not just at bat to at bat, you're going pitch to pitch, pitch to pitch. You're able to make these adjustments. And I think that's, you don't have a hitter who's all of a sudden equipped to be able to hit every single pitch no matter what. You have a hitter who says, gets in the box, sees a pitch and goes, okay, I know how to hit that one. And that's what separates these good from the best of the best.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that Pat Murphy was very instrumental in helping all of you out in being able to coach yourselves.
Yeah, that is what is super interesting, and you'll talk to him, and he knows hitting, but he's not a mechanics guy. He's not somebody who's gonna sit there and watch video and break down the mechanics. It's a completely different type of hitting style that, and he surrounds himself with a staff that has the passion and the drive to go and break those mechanics down, but that's not where he thrives in coaching and where his lane is. And so, yeah, it is, it's neat too to, he's been around the game for so long, to, middle of the World Series, we're losing 3-0. And he's like, all right, listen, we're making this adjustment. Everyone's moving up in the box on the plate. And I think he heard that because of an adjustment someone made off of Randy Johnson's slider one time. And that was the type of pitcher we were facing, a lefty drop curveball pitcher. And so, it worked, but it was just, it's neat to see how his mind makes those adjustments. And